better leave it to the professionals.
Blessed by Bungie, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been golden when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Call her Era Lord. Call me Levi, playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the blockchain.
Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. The feels not falling for the FOMO. Listening to coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they local. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum entities. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I got a shout out
Started
to
off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Freaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. If you already done so, do us a favor, drop us a GM in the chat down below, then head up top, smash that like, repost, and bookmark on today's space. We greatly appreciate it. It does warm up the algo and does us a solid. We'll get Steve on stage here in a second, but I think we got audio back, tech issues solved today. And if you haven't done so yet,
kind of, sort of. I still think I'm flashing a little bit, but I do think that at least I got the audio issues solved, which is good.
And we'll get you up on stage here on the spaces in a sec. There he is. And go hit those reminders. If you haven't smashed the carousel for this week, we'd appreciate helping us get warmed up there. You also find the YouTube link pinned up top. We're live on my abstract today. And as always, I'm Cap, joined by my co-host Steve. Never any financial advice in the show. Crypto is risky, NFTs are risky, meme coins exceptionally risky. Go to zero moment's notice. Please don't put any money you can't afford to lose. Know that Steve and I hold tokens we'll talk about from time to time here on the show. We are not financial advisors. Certainly not your financial advisor. Don't join us for that. Just join us for some fun, some information, and education along the way. In fact, if I was a financial advisor, I probably wouldn't have taken a business meeting yesterday and instead would have stayed glued to my computer and sold the top of the Goblin Town pump. Thought I had a little bit of time on that, but it retraced back to pre-strategy listing. Kind of has me a little questioning my strategy for the rest of the week. Not that I expected it to hold at 0.6, but the retrace being so extreme might have me changing how I'm playing good vibe clubs. What say you, Steve? GM, sir.
GM, yeah. Let's get right into it. I know I gotta jump out a little bit early today for some family stuff, but yeah, man, it's a I don't know, man. I think my macro concern continues, and again, not to beat the same drum, but like sometimes not everybody hears it. But again, give us a like, a retweet, a comment in the room. We're gonna get two. I might have a small echo. Do you hear a small echo, or is it just me? Okay, perfect. That means that is just something from my soundboard that I messed with yesterday. I'm not touching anything on there until after the show. But for those, by the way, who were here yesterday, my coffee cup with no coffee in it hit my soundboard. Sound went out. Pressed all the buttons, didn't work. Played with it for an hour, was violently cursing at ChatGPT, as I mentioned, to Cap in a nice way. I don't curse at ChatGPT. I curse with ChatGPT and basically tell them it's not your fault. The AI will spare me when that time comes. My flash on my webcam is still happening. I don't know if it's a StreamYard issue. I got to test it on Zoom later today and maybe Google Meet and see if it's happening, because I think it might be a StreamYard issue related to my webcam. But yeah, I basically was pissed off. I was getting ready to do a factory reset, and then I was like, well, I'm doing a factory reset, and I just started mashing buttons, sort of like what you might do in like say Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter back in the day if you didn't know what you're doing and you just mash buttons, and the sound came back. So we're here. So I have a little bit of an echo in my own ear. Nothing I can't live with. Excited to do that and get that done. But Cap, my not to be and give us a like, retweet, and a comment in the room. We're gonna probably play 2 people through Death Fund today because we missed yesterday because my sound went out. So if you want to play Death Fund, we'll get you up there. I know we have quite a few people up. Mesh, maybe we'll get playing in here, and some other folks as well. But if you want to play Death Fund with us today, let us know. We'll get you going on a run. Hopefully, we'll go on a God run for somebody today. But Cap, my feeling on NFTs remains the same, which is exactly what we've been saying, and not to be redundant, but worth repeating, is that it's not a strategy problem. It's not a OpenSea problem. It's not a Blur problem. It's an NFT problem. It's a PFP problem. It's a club problem. And I mean, the fact that they bounced a little bit, Mythic's tracing back below 0.2 or 0.3, I should say, into the 0.29 range. Crazy. And like, oddities, trending back into the 0.25 before bouncing a little bit. It's like, that happening, and now we have the strategy coming up, and I think Good Vibes Club was at like I want to say it was at like 0.76 or something, and now it's down to 0.72 with the collection offer. Goblin Town kind of jumped back down, but like, you got to look at it like, what is it that's encouraging people to hold these NFTs? If it's simply so they can get swept up by strategy and they can sell in a pump, that's not a sustainable business model if there's a reason to hold these things. So I'm also nervous about, look, I have my hand way deep in the cookie jar, completely caught by my parents with this one, because I'm sitting here with 2 Mythics and 3 oddities. I only want 1 Mythic and 1 oddity, probably. A couple of Good Vibes Club. I probably am going to hold on to one. I got to debate which one because they're both clean as hell, and I have a type when it comes to Good Vibes Club. But yeah, man, like I don't know what we make of NFTs, particularly in the PFP and club variety at the moment. Like, we've talked about it ad infinitum in the past few days. Some might argue.
I actually have a hot take. It's just oversupplied. That's the end of the day. No more people are coming. The cultures here can be fun. You can meet a lot of people, but it is just the market is just flooded with supply. I thought we would see more consolidation. It's not really happened. It just hasn't. I'm really surprised. There's still so many, and it's actually, ironically, it could be things like strategy that are keeping some of these older collections alive, essentially. Yeah, I thought we'd see more consolidation. We haven't. So instead of having like 4, 5, or 6 key crypto Web3 communities, there's still, quite literally over 100, and there's just not that many people here. So the whole idea of an exclusive club doesn't really exist, but yet they're priced as such. I think it was AJT. I'll see if I can find it. One of them just recently talked about, and if you missed it, Goblin Town, with what they're doing with the NFTs they buy with their fees is burning them, and I think AJT said, I'm sorry, I'm trying to stall here as I look for the tweet. Okay, got it. I'll give proper credit. AJT says Gonna say something out loud that everyone dances around and no one wants to admit about this space. Long term, PFPs in general are useless unless you get supply down substantially. And then they become collectibles and scarce. I'm talking 5,000 or 500 to 1,000 NFTs per collection, and that might even be too high. I'm going to pause there and get your thoughts on that.
I think it's a bad take. I get it. I understand his point of view. I understand what he's saying about now. I don't think that. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and back up to like.
Okay, so what changes now in the future? What's going to make other people want to get this deep into crypto and join a crypto NFT club?
So there's two things. There's two paths here. Number one,
I agree with Scott's 10,000 is small. It's Steve's co-author. Scott says,
"Oh, did Scott come over the top?" I love this.
Contrary wise, I didn't know that's a word. Contrary wise.
I'm positive it's Scott pulls out a word once a week when we're having a call that I'm like, I got to work that in a conversation and pretend I knew it before my conversation with him.
So here's the more you know today. Contrary wise, I believe I'm gonna define that as contrary to popular belief, but instead it's like the succinct way to say contrary to popular belief.
Also I don't think Scott's not using ChatGPT is like instead of the M dash, because that reminds me, contrary wise was funny. Like as you call that one out specifically, it's kind of like when you were calling out when you're reading.
This is even more funny to me. It's probably
like that's what I was referring to. But remember when you were reading like somebody's tweet and you're like something M dash something. Mm-hmm. Very similarly, it's like Scott, he doesn't want to be incorrect. It seems on not using an M dash, but which, dash will get you an M dash on a traditional, when you're writing. So he literally put dash as if an M dash would come up and it didn't. So he's properly using an M dash in correct form as he types correctly. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just think it's funny when you see stuff like that. It's like you see the M dashes. It's like, he typed it as if an M dash would type out in Word here as he's answering. But anyway, give the contrary wise point of view here.
He says, I don't think value is about total supply as a fixed threshold or even scarcity per se. What matters is supply relative to demand and purpose. 10,000 is quote unquote small relative to the total population of people who might want to own a given category of unique digital fashion item or memorabilia item from the favorite brand. The issue is that if people buy things purely speculatively, they're betting on market expansion while simultaneously making it harder for people to acquire the asset for its use value. My question to you: what is going to change? Like, I get it in the case of you're talking memorabilia of a large, mainstream brand. Like outside of these crypto native brands truly going mainstream, even still, I mean. So Pudgies, apes, they've went mainstream. Like they're known. I don't see anything necessarily changing the brand from those who aren't deep in the crypto streets to want to own this collectible or join these clubs. What do you think brings that demand back?
Dude, this is like one of those, like, that's my quarterback moments. That's my co-author. We did not discuss this, Scott and I, but this is like the take that we've had the past few days. And I'm going to expand on it from my point of view, like not speaking for Scott, but it's funny that he puts this. It's similar. Like sometimes people think you and I, like we think alike and we'll say something similar. They'll be like, oh, you guys plan this. It's like, no, we just have a similar point of view here. And I'm very similar here. I think there's like two ways to look at this. I think way number one, do you remember what made crypto NFT PFP so exclusive in 2021 and 2022, or one of the things that made them so exciting? It was that there were exclusive events and opportunities you can only get with that PFP. Gary famously said, and didn't follow up on, but like followed up on it in a different way for its holders, so I'm not hating on it, but Gary Vaynerchuk famously said, my mother cannot get into VCon without a VF F1. Of course, then he distributed tickets because he got feedback about, I'm sure, international people who weren't able to go.
I'm scanning the crowd for Mel to see if she invoke a wild Mel with that one. That's
but like I get it.
Under her skin right now. That's her like big pet peeve. I think she's like, she went from a Gary fan to a Gary hater based on that exact thing. The fact that he sold the tickets, the VFriend ones, as the only way to get access to the tickets, and then when he went back on that, she's never forgiven.
Well, and two things about it. One, I agree with the decision of distributing tickets. I know she doesn't, but like I agree with the decision because international people were able to sell tickets and make money on their VFriend basically while holding them. And I also think, to the same point, it did lower the value of the VFriends at that point because people were saying, oh, well, I don't need a VF1. I can get this other ticket, which people are willing to sell cheaper instead of selling their VFriend, right? So, like, that's an example. Bored Ape Yacht Club, when they had a gazillion mega acts what you get into from an exclusive party, it was like, well, I need to go to the next Ape Fest because who knows who will be there. Ape Fest 2 after Ape Fest 1 was like Speculation City before they brought on Eminem and Snoop Dogg and Lil Wayne and Future and, you know, LCD Sound System and The Roots and all these other people. So the point being, like, one, the value of these things was derived from the value you get because I didn't have a problem justifying an astronomical value for an ape when I was getting those experiences exclusively to me and people. And it was a not just a flex, but a real experience opportunity. Why do people go to concerts in person? The opportunity. Why do I see Nate Bargatze live? Because the experience makes a big deal to me. Why do people go to sporting events? Why did I go to the national title game last year? Because I want to see Ohio State live. I could have watched it on TV. It would have been perfectly comfortable. It's the experience. So number one is understanding the exclusivity and the need for memberships and what they are. So number one, to increase value in the short term. And this is also like the thing where I think strategically about how NFT brands and PFPs position themselves. There's a short term. What can you do for the crypto community? Then there's the long term, you know, part of like how you get people more interested. And again, I had a Fortune 500 executive talk to me during the height of apes when they were $200,000 saying, I think I want to buy one of these things because I see what you guys are getting from it. And I see the network and the opportunity, and I see it as an investment too. So like those things can both happen if you're doing that.
But that's not happening right now.
Correct.
Did L2s, L3s, did it kill the NFT clubs?
I don't think L2s killed the NFT clubs. I think the NFT clubs killed the NFT clubs. Like not killed them
because a lot of those NFT clubs shifted their focus away from what you just described, and they're focusing on other revenue generating sources.
In that sense, yes, I would agree with that, right? So I think that that's a fair point of view.
Because that's not just going to happen. Like what you just described, I don't think it just happens right now. Like, are we seeing movement in NFTs? Yes. It's exciting. If you're overextended, you should probably take some profits on one of these run-ups. Because what I'm seeing, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm completely missing it. There's no new entrants. We're just rotating. It's just the great rotation of NFTs. It's going from one collection to another to another. Yeah, you're going to have your mainstays, but there's just simply no new entrants. And the networking piece you described, I agree. I said, I think to you in text yesterday that owning a Bored Ape Yacht Club is probably the single greatest door opener I've ever had. Like the relationships it gained me, the doors it opened, primarily like 21 to 23, unprecedented, never experienced. Like, I mean, even still to this day, I don't know how much it is like the PFP versus, you know, reputation I built in the space, but to this day, I can shoot a DM to someone I'm not even connected with and often get a response back. The one my unicorn has become Shane from Polymarket. So I did that before Polymarket blew up, and like at a point where I could have, like he was in a range where someone would have responded to my DMs and come on the show. I followed up after they've blown up, and now after the $10 billion valuation, he's the unicorn billionaire that's probably never going to respond to a DM. But outside of Shane from Polygon, most people that I really have no business being in DM conversations with would respond. That started because of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, because of the NFT PFP. When I had 2,000 followers on this app, no one knew who I was. No one knew my background or what I did or my credentials. But the Bored Ape Yacht Club opened those doors for me. And quite frankly, Steve, a lot of those individuals were in the club. I think of like Magic City Apes and a lot of crypto founders, a lot of people. Just talking AJT, like that whole group came out of people that were at one point we were in Magic City Apes, like they were all in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The club now, as opposed to like networking with these, and I'm referencing one club. I think they're all pretty much in the same. I think you could swap out Bored Apes for Pudgies. You could swap out Pudgies for Doodles. They're all very similar at a very similar state in their life cycle. I feel. You swap out VFriends. It's instead of this the best place on the internet to make new friends, it's the best place on the internet to hang out with existing friends, which is cool, but that doesn't attract other new entrants to the clubs. Like, am I making? I'm my words.
No, you're making all the sense. This is sort of my point, like, and I'll I have a hypothetical I'll give in a second. So I want to bring up the hypothetical I brought. Don't let me forget to bring up the hypothetical from our text message with 8 Fest yesterday is a crazy example. Not saying this is what would be done, but I think it's worth mentioning. But I think the crux of what I come down to, and I keep crystallizing this point and want to figure out how to do it. We'll go to Joey in a second, and I won't make the full point here, is that there used to be, when we went to NFT NYC in 2021 and 2022, you didn't get into Ape Fest without an ape or a mutant. Now it's like +1, oh, like we've had Joey mention the point to us, which is fair. He's like, if I want to get into an event, I can get into an event. I don't need to own the thing. I feel the same way about pretty much any one of these.
Just like say that part out loud. It is what it is. Like, yeah, Joey, if you want to go to Ape Fest, you go to Ape Fest. He's never held an ape. And I feel pretty similar about any event in this space. If I wanted to go, I'd reach out to a friend who's there and they get me on a list, or they get me a +1. Like, it's just the networking. It worked maybe too well. I mean, we've all become too close of friends to where now we have ins for all these quote unquote exclusive clubs. Maybe it's an us problem.
Yeah, and that's it. It's not even just that. It's like there's a world where people bought World of Women Galaxy to go to the gala, right? And they wanted that, right? That is a real thing. We knew people at World of Women. We knew Kashfi. We knew, Shannon Snow, all these different people, but yet, like, we needed that asset to get in. Like, we weren't going to go there and be like, yo, can you slip us in the back door so we can get in? And, it's like you needed assets to have tickets to things, as an example, and extend that out to a whole bunch of different things. Now it's like people want to mass appeal. It's a sister conversation of the fact that brands are like, hey, let's pay the people who have fudded our brand or never held it in the past in order to get more attention, instead of actually figuring out how we double down on making this club really exclusive and really awesome. Because what you wanted in 2021 and 2022, there was a pissing contest to see who could throw the best event to make sure you wanted to be there. And then there were legitimate arguments over this event's just a big loud thing where I can't talk and I'm old, versus like, oh, wow, this event had a place where you could actually sit outside and have a conversation. And I like that aspect of it. So those things really, truly mattered. And the fact that we went from private concerts with Eminem and private comedy, sets with Aziz Ansari and Chris Rock to, yeah, anybody can kind of come to this thing and we can make it happen. And it's not just Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. We use that as an example. We're intimately close to it. Like World of Women with Madonna and the Gala, and the Gala and all the other things. There's not the reason why they can't sustain a floor and why we have these problems and why we need things like strategy and other things, why it's not too big, is that the exclusive memberships and the brand isn't there. What does it mean to be in Bored Ape Yacht Club? What does it mean to own Nizuki? What does it mean to own a Doodle? What does it mean to own a Gutter Cat Gang, a whatever it may be? Obviously the Fall from Grace there, a Cool Cat. Like, I said it at the time and I say it again. You need to double down on who you are not, what you can offer, what you bring to the table, and then double down on what those member benefits are. Otherwise, it's like the floor is the floor, and I don't know if these brands care as much about the floor in that case, and that's totally understandable. But what does it mean to be part of the Pudgy Penguins? What is the brand? Is it a kid's brand that's getting in front of people and proliferating that way? Is it an adult brand that throws big parties? Does it do both? Does it try to aid you into the existing with a funnel that gets you into the existing, where my son has a plushie? My son literally just said yesterday, yeah, in the morning we play catch with my Pudgy Penguin off my backpack. He was telling me about a story in the morning. There's more to it, but the point being, like, he knows what a Pudgy Penguin is. There's a point that he has an affiliation with that brand, and then eventually they get into games, and then eventually he gets into more, and then eventually he gets into wanting to be part of the club as he gets old. Like, what are these brands and what do they mean? But Joey Valls, before I go on my other point and explain kind of examples, get in here, GM sir.
GM guys. So this got me thinking when you were talking about, smaller supply versus larger supply. And I agree, you never really want to limit the amount of people that get access, because the idea is, from a traditional sense, right? Like I want as many people as possible to, spend money on things, right? Like, so like at a country club, yeah, you pay whatever, 50 grand to join, but then you also have to spend money at the bar, and you have to spend money at the restaurant, and you spend money on greens fees, but you're getting like a heavy discount as a member, right? So you don't want to, you really don't want to go to unless it's a super, super ultra exclusive where they really limit membership, right? Like that country club's never really going to say like, stop selling memberships, right? But what I thought of when you were talking about that, Cap, about when you were reading the 500 thing, was one of the things that I liked that Friendtech did was the whole bonding curve with getting entry into somebody's private room. So my question to you guys is, instead of limiting supply, what if the supply was tied to a bonding curve where the more members, right? Like as you hit certain thresholds, it just became, now there has to be a reason for people to want to get in, right? Like beyond just, hey, it's a cool PFP. But what if it was that bonding curve strategy where, we'll have as many members as want to join, but the guy who buys the 50,000th membership or the 50,000th NFT is going to pay significantly more than the guy that bought the 100th NFT.
I don't know. I don't like bonding curves personally. I don't think it's that. I don't think it has to be like the complicated dynamics, because to be honest, I think a lot of the complicated dynamics along these things already turn people off. And I think that it is bonding curves are a little, I think bonding curves can be a little bit Ponzi-ish. So that's not my bag personally. I understand the point of view, and I'm not like saying like it's wrong, because we're all like brainstorming ideas. No bad ideas in a brainstorm. By the way, thanks Osiris for powering through and finding a new way to watch and listen to the show. See you out there in the chat. I think, like, again, I'll give an example, and I'm not going to say this is the crazy example for Cap, but like, or that what Cap should do. But I texted Cap about this yesterday.
Before you give that example, how is a bonding curve different than somebody who joins a mastermind the first day it launches, and then year 5, just the mastermind goes up in price?
I mean,
because it's, you know what I mean? Like, how is the bonding curve different than that?
A bonding curve is an automatic.
Though. That's what NFTs are, Joey. They basically, they got priced on a bonding curve. If you were day one, you could get in the Bored Ape Yacht Club for $200. And then the bonding curve got to the point where if you were there the day Elon tweeted out about it, and you tried to join that day, it was $450,000. And then now it's back to whatever, 30, 40K. But that, because of price go up, and that was kind of like, I think Scott's take there is, the market essentially made a bonding curve that could go either direction based on demand. I think the dynamic, though, is it's not just a straight supply demand situation. We've added hyper financialized speculation, not just from the brand itself and the participants itself, but now we have alternate Ponzi's that are going to, whether it's blur farming or OpenSea voyage farms or strategies, like all this stuff is pulling levers that are going to have an impact on that. And in some cases, it's, like, rest in peace if someone bought a goblin at 0.6 ETH yesterday. Like I was down bad for not selling. I just hold one, and I planned to sell it yesterday, and I'm like, well, shit, do I just let it fly, or do I think there's another pump? And I felt a lot better when I saw Ming Dynasty down 50K because he bought a bunch at the tops. Like that's aggressive.
I also want to separate, like, Joey's like, what's the difference? Well, the difference is a bonding curve is a Ponzi-like dynamic on a sales mechanism. The example he gave of a mastermind group is exactly what you just described, Chris, which is supply and demand and price going on based on supply and demand. And so similarly with these clubs, that is even with the hyper financialization, that is a supply and demand balance, but it doesn't hold because the actual demand for the product isn't there for the demand for the financialization. But like, I do want to separate those 2 points. Like, it's worth talking about them differently. Like, I'm not saying the bonding curve wouldn't work or it's bad, because like Joey's like, like he's throwing out examples, just like what we said. Like, how do you make it more appealing? How do you make it work? So I think like I don't like bonding curve dynamics personally. I think it's just a supply and demand. And so I'll give you an example. And this is like not the correct example. I'm not saying that this is what Yuga should do, so don't take this out of context. But it's like Ape Fest is coming up. And there's all these events around it. There's 8 games. There's things going at the club, et cetera, et cetera. Yuga has this giant group of punks in a vault, right? And I'm not saying they should do this, but as an example of something on the crazy end of the spectrum, imagine we went to Ape Fest and, surprise, the winner of 8 games gets a punk. One random person who participates gets a punk. Somebody who participates at, Ape Fest gets a punk. Somebody at Complex Con gets a punk. Like, imagine that 4 or 5 people left with crypto punks in their pockets from Ape Fest. And then they had a major big actor. I'm not saying they should do this. I'm not saying these are big spends. These are worth a lot of money. That's an extra $500,000 to the budget, whatever. Point being, if that happens, people are going to say, well, damn, I don't want to miss their next event if every event has something really special for the holders. And they're like, oh, and by the way, The only way to get in is if you have an ape and a mutant. We're not doing plus ones. We understand people want to bring their wives and their families, or you can bring your wives and your families to this, but this part is just the club. By the way, there's tons of clubs that are like that. Like, it's not like country clubs are because you get family memberships and things, but it's like, and so it's like that, but it's like you could have it so that just getting into the club events that really are super exclusive, like, sorry, love your family members. If they're with you, they're not going to be able to get in unless they own an ape or a mutant, and that's just how we do it. Like, and then those people in there have opportunities to win a litany of prizes, get these grab bags as giveaways, get these physicals. What do you think happens at the next event? People want to buy, they want to go, they want to be involved in it, and they start saying, okay, so it's like a small example, and that's like one microcosm of an example of how it felt to go to these events. Whether you went to go see Madonna from World of Women, I'm like, damn it, I don't know the World of Women, I can't afford it, I can't get in the door. Or, you know, you want to go to Gutter City for Gutter Cat Gang back in the day, I can't get in the door. Like,
we need a counter on how many Gutter Cat references we get on Coffee with Captain.
Well,
This
like,
forget the bingo card. We just need now the ongoing counter of how many Gutter Cat Gang references.
well, but it's like cool.
Find another Serpin shows talking about Gutter Cat Gang in the year of our Lord 2025.
More than Doodles. But like even like with Doodles as an example, it's like Doodles had the Genesis factory. So here's an example. Let me give you a really tangible example of Doodles again. Another one like of this exclusive membership. In Austin a couple years ago, Doodles had the immersive experience. I forgot to register my Doodle by Monday night. I waited in the fucking standby line with everybody else because even with my Doodle in my wallet, I could not get in because I didn't register in time. And then they had a Diplo event I didn't register for, and I stood in the regular line hoping to get in until
I'm old enough to remember there was a point in time where the nicest thing you ever did for me was get me into the Doodle golf event at Doodle Putt at Miami Art Basel. Like, oh, I felt like Steve is hooking me up. Steve's using his +1 on me for Doodle Putt, and
there was a real world in Miami Art Basel.
Could get into a putt golf course, but Steve hooked me up. Like, that was a big deal.
That was a big deal to get into that event with the drinks and the food and the merch and like get into there. And like, I still have the awesome golf towel, by the way, with Hap on it. Like, I don't care how much I get annoyed by that brand and that community, I love the brand.
Call me out in the abstract chat. I was slacking on the title update. It is show 1003. We're not going backwards here. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
But yeah, like, I guess my point
Hey,
being,
can I jump in real quick? The whole idea of like exclusive events, though, it's really difficult. So we talked about like getting sponsors for events, right? Like, none of these companies should be paying money for any of these events because they should have lots of sponsors because all these sponsors are looking to get their name out there, etc. But if you do what you said, which is make it ultra exclusive, where you're only going to have a couple hundred people attend because they have to own said asset, it makes it really difficult then to convince sponsors to pay for these events because they're not getting the type of awareness that they would if this event was available via ticket purchase or open to the public, right? So like, now you have to say, okay, well, who's paying for these ultra exclusive events if you're not going to raise enough sponsorships? I'm going to hand it back because you only have.
I'm going to hand it back to Steve, but I think what you just described isn't an issue with these events. I think they will pay for that because that's who they want. They want to identify their target demographic. They want to identify those with disposable income. I think what you just described, and it's not, I mentioned like an L2, L3 problem earlier. It's not that. It's these brands. I think most of them realize it's really tough to build a business that's valued at hundreds of millions or billions of dollars when your customer base or your user base is a few thousand at most. And they're like, okay, we have to grow beyond those that are collecting our 5-figure JPEGs to join our club. Because even though there's 10,000, there's, at most of them might be 5,000 actual holders. And and of those, maybe 2,500 are engaged. That's a lot. That's nothing compared to build a business that's valued at $1 billion. You need hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users. And so, Pledges did it with toys and gaming and all this other stuff. Like, that idea of expanding to the masses, I think that's where a lot of these NFT brands are kind of caught, is like, how do we service the masses, sell to the masses, while still creating this club that is somewhat exclusive? And it's hard.
But it's also like, to the point, number one, I think Joey's incorrect to your point. I think the sponsors I think you're exactly right. I think the sponsors say, hell yes, like, 2,000 people with that level of disposable income that don't sell a $500,000 monkey JPEG, yes, that is a customer you probably want in your ecosystem. We saw that with BMW and some others, number one. Number two,
I don't think you would get to that. You think if apes were the only people allowed to go to an event, let's say
A-Fest one had
NYC or Art Basel, 2,000 of them would show up?
Someone mentioned Augusta. Someone mentioned it's the most exclusive membership in the world because of the supply demand. It's not public, but the sponsors at Augusta, which is, again, you can't even go buy a ticket. You have to win an auction to get in there. And it's very limited. It's mostly high net worth individuals. Their annual sponsorship revenue is about 50 million, with sponsors paying almost $10 million each to now, I guess maybe that does not a good example because that also comes with TV rights, but never mind, bad example.
But like my point being, like, one, yes, I think you are going to get a few thousand because you're going to get the right people in who actually want these benefits, and you're giving a reason to go. The first Ape Fest had like 1,000 people at it plus, regardless, and that was like 10,000 mutants had just dropped, and it was getting to it and lining up out the door and things. One, I think yes, I think you can get a couple thousand to this with the right club benefits for sure. Number two, the answer to that, if you want to go a different direction, is you actually tier it off like we've talked about many, many times. If you have tiered membership, you have tiered benefits. Apes get one thing, can win certain things, get certain grab bags, certain access, certain areas, certain exclusive experiences. Mutants get something else. Dogs get something. Dogs get a booster on this. Like, it's just, I think, and again, I'm using apes as an example, not because I think apes do, like, look, I'm going to Ape Fest. I'm thrilled. I'm going to play in the poker tournament. The point being that there is the opportunity to create these things where you create actual reasons to own. The reason people wanted to own these assets, like when we go to an event or a crypto conference, the exclusivity matters. And like the ability for me, like, I host a show, like you're on regular, you work in the industry, Joey. Either one of us could go to just about any crypto event at anything if we just knock on the right doors and ask a few questions and get in. And that makes it so it's like, why do I own this asset? You've said it, I said it. So the problem we continue to have is, how do you, again, the example,
Steve, I'm sorry. Ian just mentioned poker tournaments for the win. That's what they should do. The bracelet winner at the Bored Ape Yacht Club Poker Classic, it should not just be a bracelet. They should also walk out of there with a pump. Or, hey, maybe top three. First prize gets first choice. Second place gets second choice. Third person gets third choice of a pool of here's 10 punks you could choose from. Like, I'm trying to come up with also stuff that's not just free magical internet money. But I'm also working within what they have to work with today. That's not going to go require massive spins or.
It's where the sponsors come in, though. Like, to your point, like you made a comment where we don't know what happened with the OpenSea rewards program. You're like, they probably got those optimism tokens donated or something. So there you go. So if you are, again, we're using Yuga as an example, but it's like Pudgy Penguin runs Pudgy Fest. It's like, okay, you get all of your sponsors to donate a bunch of stuff, which you use for prizes and giveaways and opportunities, and you feature community members, and you give it a reason to be there, and you make it more exclusive. And then, you know what happens when you have more exclusive too? More exclusive people show up. Early on in the Moonbirds community, when I went to freaking like the event that they did when they did the future, whatever it was, Future Proof or whatever their event that they did in LA was. And I went with, I think I went with Tebow and like another guy I was working with at the time on like a company I was advising. It's like, we were talking to someone, they're like, oh yeah, I'm like the co-founder of like DoorDash or something. Like people who from Kevin Rose's network are like, well, yeah, it's an exclusive event with a very few group of people. And there's a really good network of people here to potentially meet and interface with. So I'm going. Like,
I just connected the dots today. Spencer has not to thank Garga for Piper handing burbs to him. He has to thank Cairo for canceling Proof of Conference. I truly believe had they went forward with Proof of Conference and not been a little baby back bitch about it because they didn't fully sell out, I think we'd still proof. Cairo would still be at Proof. They'd still be having a thing because that would have turned into a flagship event every year. Like it was just like he had the network, good, bad, or indifferent. Like I was more so looking forward to going to Proof of Conference than I was VCon, and VCon was great. I think that could have been a home run event. They had sold a bunch of tickets for it. Like that was the fumble of all fumbles, more so than the CCO decision.
Yeah, that was a major fumble for sure, and would have been a banger, and people were looking forward to it. And they were going to give away. I think they were going to give. I had heard they were going to give away Beeples and some other things there. Point is, like, I'm giving random free internet money examples, like Cap said, and those things matter. But like also you use that sponsorship money to go get the biggest acts, the most interesting. It's like, you know, Travis Scott's probably going to be at Complex Con. Imagine if 8Fest, Travis Scott walks in the door and starts and does a quick set and walks out. And you're like, yeah, you know what? Like we got sponsored by Polygon or whoever. And so we decided to trot him out there, and he's, you know, just for the club, and he's going to take some pictures, and he's going to sign some autographs, and he's going to give away a pair of shoes and some other things. Like there are so many things you could do if you are just very club focused. I think what you run into is the thing that most businesses do that like makes them really successful is they hyper focus on doing the thing they do incredibly well. I talked about this with Pump Fun. Pump Fun's an incredible launch pad. They got that down. Then they turn into a streaming service. They're getting that down. They're not trying to spin off 50,000 other businesses and do other things, and they're going to continue to be successful. I know it's different. I know they have revenue that prints, but like if Pudgy Penguins or Doodles or all these things had a strong brand proposition and they ran events through that brand proposition, things like Doodle Putt and like those immersive experiences that were sort of like, you know, age, you know, agnostic and all these other things. And then they said, this is the reason you want to do this. Like Cap mentioned it. He thought it was a big deal when I used him as my +1 to go to Doodle Putt. Think about that. A couple of years ago, it was like, oh my God, I got into this exclusive event that people want to go to. There's people here. We got to play around. We got to meet with some, you know, we got to meet Burnt Toast's brother, who he thought was Burnt Toast because he's his twin, like all these different things. And I don't know, man, like, I think like, I'm not saying these are all like, these are just in a vacuum ideas that are part of a larger strategy, but like the membership director, the ongoing rewards, the biz dev, the seasonal activations, things that VFriends, by the way, continues to do well. They updated their website. They have their community on there. They're doing activations. They have exclusive holder member benefits, like reasons like that, that would drive value back to these things. And the demand is only going to outweigh the supply when one, they're easier to acquire, obviously for people outside of space, but two, like the reason I had a Fortune 500 executive asking me at $200,000 if he should buy an ape is because of those things that they were getting and the opportunity that they saw going with the club. So I think that it's like, and guess what happens? If a Fortune 500 executive buys an ape, then another person buys an ape, then another person, then suddenly that value of that membership goes up on its own. But Joey, go ahead and get back in.
I think all this stuff I agree with, like pretty much all of it. I do think one of the biggest issues, though, which we've talked about in this space, is these companies need to find more of like all these live event suggestions are great. IRL events are a ton of fun. We all agree we miss them, and it's part of why we think we have some fatigue and all that stuff. But they still got to figure out a reason for people to want to hold these NFTs in between the one or two IRL events they throw a year. Because if you're just an IRL event NFT, then you might as well just, you know, go to, like, you could probably go to IRL events for significantly less than what it costs to own one of these NFTs whenever you want.
I agree.
And I think that's the underlying issue, is like, what do you do with your holders between the two live events you throw throughout the year?
I agree, but most of them are at least making efforts. You know, like Machiavelli says, PFP is not useless when you're running around the metaverse. All of them are doing things. They're not just only doing their one event a year or events at every crypto conference. That said, I think the common denominator amongst all these NFT collections, whether they're building a blockchain, whether they're building a metaverse, whether they're building toys, whether they're building comics, all of them, in my opinion, the common denominator is they have a community of people who enjoys getting together in person. Hard stop. Like that we saw it work. We saw the excitement it created. We saw the energy it created. We saw the momentum it built. And for whatever reason, like that seems to have went away to some degree. And I know we've got Ape Fest just around the corner. I know others have done a lot of events, side events. It's just, I think at the end of the day, it's what's it at its core that is from a networking, from a club standpoint, from a why do I want to hold this asset? To your point, yes, that's not just enough by itself, like a singular event, but I think that is what I view is probably the biggest difference today versus then, because they were all doing it was different things they were attempting to do then versus the things they're doing now. That just seems like something that while they're working on these other things, like building out their businesses, to me, it seems like the low hanging fruit. I could be wrong, but
and like Joey's point, like I get it. Like it has to be in between. I'm not saying it's just an event strategy. So I want to like be like I said, like this is part of a larger strategy. Like we've been saying, like having a membership director, having someone in charge with a budget, having someone who can activate internationally, having somebody who's talking to members, having somebody who's doing customer profiles of what they actually want and what makes them happy besides just free money. It's like, but this is also the idea of like, imagine like you wouldn't feel like it was nothing if every seasonal collection there was one free item to claim for for mutants, one free item to claim for apes, and the opportunity to buy more things that they did that they were dope, that they were doing collabs on. Those take a lot of time and energy, so they need someone dedicated to doing that. But if again, I'm not saying this example, but if like Pudgy Penguins, for example, is paying attention to Abstract and Pengu Token, and they run an event at Art Basel and they try to do some international stuff and they do some speaking ops, who's keeping their eye on the ball when it comes to just doing holder benefits and just things that get them excited and just things that are activations and just the merch and just the it's like all of these different opportunities to do digital experiences. Again, we talked about the digital treasure hunt that if you did a virtual digital treasure hunt that was basically like the golf outing for your company every year, like where it's like, okay, we have a we have a digital treasure hunt or a digital puzzle contest, or we talked about with Abstract. Like imagine if the Abstract games existed and there was different teams that play different games. There's all these things you can do that some people are doing organically on other side and some people are doing elsewhere. But like you could bring this all together as a ongoing digital brand. But like if you're selling an exclusive club membership, people have to have a reason to want to be in this club and hold this thing, to your point, Joey. So it's the big events, which are like the can't miss things. You want your event every year not to be like, yeah, do I want to go to A-Fest? Do I want to go to Basel? Do I want to go to VCon? You want it to be and VCon did a good job of this. It has to be I hold a V-friend. I cannot miss this thing. I plan my vacation around it. I work a 9 to 5. This is when I take time off work. And then the rest of the year, you take care of it with the things in between. I'm not saying these brands are doing anything wrong. They got to make money. I understand it. It's hard. It's hyper-financialized. They have a lot of headwinds. My point being, the reason these prices are down, the reason they can't hold is because people don't see the reason to say, I want to be part of this club anymore. And I can do anything with the club without it. And when your main exclusive event is something people are like, I can just get into that if I wanted to.
Or you see brands prioritizing the mercenaries over the actual club members. And that is a dangerous slippery slope.
Huge slippery slope, which you see with a lot of brands. I mean, Lambo Land had that tweet yesterday. I know I showed it to you, and I quote tweeted it. And then after this I promise we'll do a couple people if Dorton, maybe Mesh are still around, maybe we'll do them on Death Fun. But I'd seen this tweet for Lambo Land that I quote tweeted. I'll click on it and then I'll back it out. But he said, contrary to popular belief, all attention is not good attention. There's only roughly 50K people on crypto Twitter. More importantly, I think there's more, but you get the point. More importantly, to vibe with the community than to maximize virility at all costs. Retention equals awareness. To which I said, that part, more important to vibe with the community than maximize virility at all costs. Retention over awareness. Working in comms, there's an incorrect phrase. Any press is good press. No, it's not. The attention economy is about the right kind of attention. To Cap's point, there are brands that I know have worked with big KOLs and influencers in the space, and I've seen people who are dedicated community members who have left those brands specifically because they partnered with KOLs who have flooded the club and not been in the club and said, this is my last straw. And people think like attention, likes, like all those things matter. It's quality. It's associating yourself with the right person. And by the way, as a brand, if you have a major following on social media, you can choose the right person that you think is a fit for your brand, that fits who you are, who you want to be. Like when I would do this in the Fortune 500 world, and we would be looking for ambassadors for Lean Cuisine or Stofers or Progressive or whoever it was, you find the person, and maybe they're not the biggest person, and then you platform them and you give them the opportunity and you make them somebody because you say, this person fits my brand. They make sense. Maybe they're not the biggest, but damn, that's a good fit. Like you could, as a crypto company, find someone, if you're, Polymarket, and find someone who's a great fit and you say, this is what Polymarket represents, and then platform them and have their platform be 10x because of your platform. And then you're growing in the right way. The right people are going to like this person. It's the same idea that like Cap and I have talked about, like we thought Thread Guy was going to blow up before he blew up. Whatever you think about him now, like no problem with Thread Guy, but like whatever you think about him now, we saw him. We're like, this guy's a lot of talent. Somebody's going to associate with him. Bored Apes or somebody should sign him to a deal, et cetera, et cetera. Ended up blowing up. We saw Clemente early on. We said he's going to be the next big person when he was coming up during Blast and he was making a big deal. People like ICO, like you could find those people who represent your brand and then you could platform them on top of their own platform, not wait for them to grow, and endearing people will be endeared and sort of find their way to them. So, anyway, lots of stuff there. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I know it's the, I don't know, Tropo, why don't you run a NFT company and get everything right? It's just feedback that I see where it's like, if there is not, like, when people try to blame all these external factors, it's like me saying, I'm out of shape. It's Chipotle's fault. No, it's because I don't get on the treadmill, lift weights, and have the discipline to order the correct food and put the right things in my body. It's not the Grey Goose's fault that I'm out of shape. It's not the tequila's fault that I'm out of shape. It's my fault for consuming it. And I think like there needs to be that thought process of like, it's not royalties, it's not Blur. It's not, those are all market conditions that happen. But it's like Gary Vaynerchuk has this famous thing that he's posted a bunch of times where he asks someone says, I live in, Texas, and it's not fair that I can't start a weed company. And he goes, so move to Colorado, bitch, or something like that. And Gary's like, he has this whole thing where he's like, stop complaining. Like, when they wouldn't let me sell wine in certain states, I had to adjust. I didn't sit there and whine and complain about it. I figured out where I could sell wine and how I could do it. He's like, if you want to do it, if the laws aren't conducive to it, you move and you do it, or you don't. But complaining about the market doesn't change the market. And so that's where I think it's like, yes, I understand these headwinds. I'm not knocking the NFT companies who are working very, very hard. I'm more saying, guys, like, if they don't care about it being an exclusive club, it's not important. That's great. If you do, then you need to make it work. But Cap, I know we're getting Serpin's coming on in a little bit here. I did a poor job teasing that one last night. I meant to send out a tweet and it's just been getting away from me lately. Should we do a couple death fun runs?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do a couple death fun runs. I'll pull it up here. So Cap, if you don't mind going to my pin post and pinning to the top while I get this thing fired up here. We're going to do death fun runs. We're going to do Mesh and we're going to do Dort. They both, I think, are up for a God run to really get paid out here. So it is time for Coffee with Captain Death Fun gameplay. Death Fun, home of DJ and Dice, Laser Party, and the original Death Fun game, is bringing the chaos to Coffee with Captain with $3,000 in prizes up for grabs. Tune in daily for your shot to play. And don't forget, use our referral link and play $20 for a chance to win the $1,000 grand prize. So up top, Cap's going to be pinning from my pin tweet a link that you can just click. You click on that picture, you go and you play $20 worth, and that $20 worth is going to go ahead and get you the opportunity to win $1,000 just by playing. So you play $20 worth, maybe you win a couple and you make it work. And you just cash out that $20. You're up and you're entered to win $1,000. So highly recommend it. We got Death Fun pulled up here. Mesh. If you are ready, I'm going to go Mesh first, and then we will go Dort. We'll pay attention to the abstract chat for these things. Maybe I'll tag Dort in the war room. Either way, I'll try to keep an eye on both. But we're going to do the first run. So I'm going to run one. Cap's going to run one. Then Mesh. You're going to let us know if we get up there. So I'm going to go right just off the start. We're going to go ahead and play Right Never Fails. And I'm going to switch it up to this one. All right. Mesh. I'm going to cash it right here. And I'm going to go ahead and get you.
4K. These are getting more, or 5K, excuse me. These are getting, it'll be 10K by the end of the year. So these are becoming big decisions.
Yeah, these are becoming big decisions. So I'm gonna cash Mesh. I'm trying to find my Mesh thing to make sure he's won at least this. And we are gonna cash Mesh right off the bat with a little bit of money right there. All right, Cap. I'm gonna go ahead and start, and you're gonna do a run for Mesh, and then we're gonna try for a God. I mean, we'll try for a God run this time. We can just rip it now because he's already won. What do you want to hit?
Right never fails. Right
failed. All right. All right, we're gonna try to get him going. We're gonna start with the right. We're gonna go back and forth. So Cap, I'm gonna start left. What do you want to hit?
Fuck.
Unfortunate. All right, Mesh. You still won quite nicely there. We didn't get you to go for a God run, but yeah, we'll get that. And don't worry, Diego, the ETH is gonna come out hopefully today or tomorrow. I've got some family stuff that I've been kicking back on, but we will get that done. All right, Dort, your turn for a run. Dort, let's get you ready and going. We're gonna do a Dort run. So I'll do Dort's first run. Cap will do the second run. I'm gonna go right. I'm gonna go left. I'm going to go second from the left. Okay, I failed. Cap, you want to go right?
Yep.
You going to go right the whole way?
Yep. Two more rights. Fuck.
All right.
Our right is failing us today.
Our right is failing us, which means gambler's fallacy. We're in great shape right now.
Yep. Oh.
I'm giving Dort one more run because Dort's a good dude. Look, right would have failed. I mean,
they're teasing us.
Surely that won't happen again.
Big Brother's listening in from Death.Fun today.
All right. Right. All right. We're just unlucky. I'm sorry, Dort. We didn't even get to go on a God run for you because we just basically just crashed out hard on you. So we'll get Dort another play before this is all said and done, I think, though, because Dort's a good dude. We love the Dort. And sorry that I'm feeling up. Man, if I just not gone right, we could have gone all the way up and gotten ourselves over here and started playing around. But Dort, we owe you another run at some point because we just absolutely got cooked. Be Epic saying play DGen Dice. We'll get DGen Dice and maybe some other stuff involved as well on Death Fun. But again, I can't say it enough. If you're playing Coffee with Captain, we don't have that many refs going on right now. So it's a really good opportunity to win $1,000 courtesy of Death Fun. If you go up to the link, click on the top. I'll share the link in the abstract chat here as well in a second. You basically go to the, I will click it. I will pull it up. You go to that ref link that I have. And I'm making sure I am getting my ref link proper for those in the abstract chat. You go to my ref link, you play at least $20 worth of Death Fun. And I put the ref link in the abstract chat so you can copy and paste that. And then with $20 worth, you were entered to win that $1,000. They're going to go back and track on that, see how many people use that ref link. So again, the other thing I'd say is that, look, chance to win $1,000 for $20. We gave away thousands of dollars, probably over 10 grand worth of prizes in the past 6 months or so. If you like that we're doing giveaways, if you like that our sponsors do this, highly recommend click that Death Fun sponsorship, play the $20. Like you said, hopefully you don't lose the $20. If you can't afford to lose it, don't play it, but maybe you win, maybe you don't. It lets our sponsors know you care. And it also gives us the opportunity to continue to do stuff like that with them. So, I know a lot of people are saying they've gotten some bad experiences. It's funny, people, but a lot of it I think is the quick cash out that people don't do, where it's you could have a cash out strategy and then go for a God run. So sort of 3 runs that get you some money and then go for the big one. Done that before, but yeah, $20 worth of gameplay enters you to win that $1,000 in prizes from Death Fund. So click on that ref link and give it a run. But Cap, I know we got Serpin coming on here in about 2 minutes. What are your parting thoughts on this idea? I guess because instead of getting into a topic, and I'll probably need to go after the Serpin interview. Any other thoughts on this, NFT as a club thing? I know it's hard, and I think maybe some people say it's easier said than done. But man, it just feels like we went away from this idea of what these clubs are. And to me, that's why the prices go down as much as anything. And people will tell you whales, whatever. It's if people felt that there's value, people feel that there's value. So I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's necessarily a price thing. I maybe, yeah. What is this going to do to attract new members? And then you can talk supply demand. I'm more talking about retention. And I don't think the people here yeah, I'm sure they'd love to see number go up. Why are we holding these things? And yeah, a lot of good suggestions today from, the types of events and the activities they can be doing between, but I just think it's more communication. That stuff it seems to land well, whether it's behind the scenes or, the board meetings or monthly updates. I'm not picking on Board Ape Yacht Club. It's just the one that we're the closest to, and we have Ape Fest coming up, but so it's easy example. I don't know as a single tangible update we've gotten in the past year since last Ape Fest as it relates to the Board Ape Yacht Club. There's been a lot of updates for Ape Chain and ApeCo and Sunset of the DAO and others, another side and all those things. But when it comes to the Board Ape Yacht Club and the membership for holding an ape or a mutant, I don't think I'm exaggerating and say I don't think we've gotten a single update in the past year.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing that we talked about. It's the two things I'd said, and
and by the way, burying the lead here. Shout out to Garga for making someone's day yesterday who had an unfortunate hack and lost their assets. Garga went and bought it, and then like that's awesome. That's awesome. Like the community is incredible. Like there's a lot of cool things that happen here. So it's not. I at least want to give flowers for that, and it's well deserved. But again, I think like the lowest hanging fruit is what happened to the communication? What happened to the building in public? Like that used to be a thing for like, it used to be like almost like the rallying cry for all these Web3 brands. And we've gotten very far from that, I feel.
Well, and the last thing I'll say, and then we'll bring Serpin on here. I'm pretty excited for this discussion. Like the last thing I'll say on here is that like this was part of my complaint that I ran into with the like, not complaint, but like, I think I've talked to some of the brands behind the scenes about communications and things that they're doing. And, I've considered doing communications consulting and some other like working with some and, potentially even working for some. And I think part of the problem is people think communications and marketing is hiring a person who is a mindshare KOL and saying it solves everything. It's like, okay, like cool person rocks your brand. That's no different than buying Shaq to, talk about a Kia. Do we think Shaq drives a Kia? Probably not. But like, it gets people talking about it. They think he's an interesting spokesperson. Good spokespeople are good, but like, it's not a communication strategy. Communication strategy, again, I'll bring up BeFriends. I know people maybe don't love it. It's not about the floor price, but it's about the fact that every text I get, every email I get, every tweet they send out, all the Discord announcements, like they're hitting communications across multiple channels with major things and people get excited about it. So I just think that there's communications things, there's events that could happen in between, but you have to like be relentlessly obsessed. And it sounds like Garga might be, and we're going to get a lot of updates in the clubs at 8Fest. I'm looking forward to it, but a lot of pressure on that announcement if you like hold it down to be like so much coming, announcement in the announcement versus just consistently communicating the value. And people are like, because when there's communications and things going on, people would say, I'm comfy holding my, my doodle, my whatever, because I know what's coming down the pike. So just a thing to be thinking about. But let's hard pivot to our guy Serpin. We're going to talk a little Ethos this morning. If you are not on Ethos, you are missing out, my friends, because it is become a continual growth platform that is actually looking at relevant pieces to what it can do. Started out sort of as a review. You introduced the sort of slashing and sort of, upvoting features that are allowing people to, actually kind of put their money where their mouth is. A staking feature which says put your money where your mouth is, to the do you really support someone? So a lot going on in Ethos, but GM Serpin, for those who maybe aren't familiar with, let's say, Ethos, I know we kind of gave your background, the whole friend tech thing, and how we're trying to create a better version of it. Give us a little bit of background on Ethos for maybe those who aren't on it. And I have some invites if people want to potentially get in the crowd.
Wait, before we get the background on Ethos and all that, you just like proper questions. I'm pretty sure we invited Serpin on here today I thought he was going to give us his decision. Are you joining Team Kalshi or Team Paul?
Yeah, this is the decision, actually. I decided to stay neutral. I'm Switzerland. I prefer to watch them pen themselves against each other and see who has more reputable in the end. And it's an interesting take if you go look at both of their Ethos scores. I'll just leave it at that.
Ooh, I haven't even looked. So that's an example of what's interesting to me is it shows directionally where the market's going. It does also show sometimes, I mean, I've gotten fudded for like literally publicly for things where I've, looked at some of the, I've sort of like downvoted or voted against certain protocols, especially on sort of the listing section, because I do think sometimes it's a popularity contest, which is also part of what the feeling is. But Cap's giving us a live look at Kalshi versus, there you go. Polymarket.
So now we all know what ICOB's 5-page article was all about. The funniest comment, I actually spit out my coffee this morning when, if you missed it, ICOB's announced he was joining Team Kalshi, right?
Yeah.
So he announced he's joining Team Kalshi and wrote a big 5-page article on it. And the first comment was, I read your whole article and I still don't know what you're going to be doing there. This is it. His job is to get Kalshi's Ethos score up, which is currently at 1298. Above Polymarket's, which is 1534.
I also saw somebody say you don't need to write it. Like it was kind of funny. ICO quote tweeted it, but it was like there's someone says like you don't need to write a 5-page article every time you take a new job. Which was kind of interesting. But yeah, Serpin, for those who maybe aren't familiar with Ethos, let's hit on kind of like Ethos and kind of where it started.
Mhm.
And then we'll get into some of the products, and then we'll get into the new product that you're talking about introducing. But I think you're doing a good job introducing ancillary tangential products that actually make sense to your brand.
Mhm.
So talk about Ethos and then some of the products that are currently offering, and then we'll kind of get into what you're building there now.
Yeah, so the way that what we're trying to build with Ethos is what I would call more like social infrastructure. It's a product that helps you understand who is reputable, who is not reputable, who you should be talking to, what projects you should be spending your time on. And then on the flip side of that, which ones should you be avoiding? Like who are the people that are consistently retweeting and pushing tickers that you should absolutely be avoiding because they are crime ridden and bad. And there's a lot of things that happen on CT, whether that be narrative shifts or people promoting things without kind of disclosing that make the space that we are in truly the Wild West. And the thing that we must do as a crypto society is progress such that we can kind of adopt these modern societal standards. Like the easiest way to explain it is we're in the era of robbing banks and like robbing trains. It's more profitable right now to be greedy and to steal or to be crime ridden, and we're in the 1880s, than to be in modern society where you're an upstanding like citizen of the member of the community, just doing your daily life and being like making content like you guys are, whatever it might be. We have to get to a point where most people are choosing to be upstanding members of society, and Ethos is a protocol that helps add accountability into the mix. It allows people to say who they trust and who they don't trust, and at the end of the day we get things like we were talking about earlier, which is a score, a relative sentiment of how someone feels about a product, or how collectively the entire space feels about a product.
Yeah,
Or
I love that. I love what you said there about we're in the era of robbing banks and robbing trains, right? It's like it's a good way to because we always try to like make these analogs about where we're at in crypto, and it is interesting. And so in a lot of ways, you're bringing clarity to this space, and you see it with certain people like Dave Portnoy is a popular character. He's polarizing outside of crypto Twitter certainly, but polarizing but popular. And from the crypto standpoint, like very low reputation score, because there came a point when he would talk about tokens and he would say, I'll just dump on you and I don't care. Or like, not in those exact words, but sort of like, I'll sell when I sell and I'll say about it. And he's like, at one point, I think he's like, I can just talk about a token and it goes up in price. That's easy. And it's like, that's called a pump and dump. And so
yeah,
he got those feedbacks and his review score is red. So
Mhm.
it's trying to bring clarity where people say it's not just follower count, it's also about what you
Right.
do and how you do it. So I like that idea. And so that's there. Talk about some of the other products on the platform though. So from just reviewing, that's obviously a very valuable one. There's some plugin. There's the plugin which
Mhm.
shows you the score right on X, which I love. What else have you put on as a product on the platform?
Yeah, so two things. To start, again, if we go back to what I was talking about earlier, we built ourselves as infrastructure, right? So if you can imagine Ethos as kind of being like an L1 or an L2, it's not, just to be clear, there's no Ethos L1 or L2, but imagine it being its own infrastructure. Every infrastructure out there in Web3 today, it only succeeds when you build things on top of it. I'll give you examples. If you look at Monad, which is launching soon, you have Mega ETH that people are excited about. You have Abstract, you have ApeChain, you have all of these different infrastructure. The only way that they're successful is if you build products on top of them. And for the most part, what infrastructure providers have done in the past is they said, okay, well, we will go seed and fund people to build things on top of our infrastructure. They have the Mega ETH Mafia, and they have teams that are building GTE and building all of these different things on top of Mega ETH and noise and stuff like that. We have said, well, if we're going to be infrastructure provider for the social layer, we have to go build these things ourselves. Like if you want Ethos to be successful and want it to be everywhere, well, you have to show the use case. You have to show how it's valuable. And so we started with something really simple, which was Ethos listings. Ethos listings is just a way to say, here's a project. Like, as a credible user, are you bullish or bearish on it? Can we bring better sentiment to the world while driving eyeballs to new projects that people are excited about that maybe don't have a token yet, and get a measure of sentiment over time? So Ethos listing is kind of the first stab at that. Okay, can you do like regular polling for people and poll them regularly over time? But now you know who those people are. Now that they're credible. Now you got to put your name on it when you say that you're bearish on something. So kind of first steps, right? How do we start introducing this idea of getting better data? Now, the second step, and where we've taken recently, is this idea of Ethos Broker, which is more of a full-fledged product. What if you could do over-the-counter trading with other people without depending on heavy use of collateralization, while being able to trust and know who your counterparty is, and then add consequence to the back end of that if you bail on a deal or screw someone over? Well, that really shows the power of reputation at the end of the day. It shows how if you can measure reputation and it's something that's actionable and has consequence, it all kind of comes together. And so what I think we've witnessed with kind of continuing to build on top of Ethos is people start to see that. They're like, "Oh, okay, it's not just this like protocol. It's like something I could actually use and get benefit from now." And so that's kind of our focus and what we've been working on over the past few months.
So I think the broker's an interesting concept, for sure. Definitely sort of a new and different way to approach things. Can you give me like one thing I want to back up on though, because you talked about the listings there for a second. I want to go back to that before we go back to broker, which is, you talked about listings being like put your name on bullish or bearish.
Mhm.
Talk about squaring away the idea. So Somnia, for example,
Mhm.
73% bearish, 27% bullish. And then the Ethos score is, 1993 with 89% positive reviews.
Mhm.
Can you square those two things away for me?
Yeah, I mean, they're really interesting, right? Like you can be reputable, but people might not be optimistic about your outlook. And I think that's kind of what ends up happening, especially with protocols that end up what I would call getting farmed pretty hard. So if you take an example like Somnia, which I believe they have launched their token in the past 30 days. Um, if you scroll down a little bit there and go to the like bear and bull signs, there's actually a little thing at the top of one of those that has like a little arrow and it says like 45 people are bullish. Yeah, if you click that, there's like yeah, right there. There's a chart, and if you go to all time, you can kind of see how these things trend over time. And the all time is at the top there underneath the circle. Yeah. And so you can kind of see the trend and how it manifests over time and how people change that sentiment. And so I believe that sentiment is a different measurement than how reputable you are. Reputation for a protocol is usually like, okay, how trustworthy is the team? Do you feel like, when they talk, they're not talking out of the side of their ass, they're actually giving it to you straight? When they talk about a potential airdrop, is that something that they're being upfront and honest about? Now, there's a lot of intertwinedness, I guess, between these two things, anyways. But it does give you that additional level of insight that allows you to also be bearish about something without saying, "I'm going to negatively impact your reputation."
Makes sense. Now a couple things I want to get into, and then I want to go into this sort of like, like you said, like I think that, broker, it's like this all encompassing sort of like central town square to sort of like see people's reviews, make those trades based on that, kind of have that, opportunity, which I love that idea of having that central product. But I want to go back to like user base. Because I do think that there is I want to think, because one of the things I think that's really interesting about you is like I tend to ask you whenever we've had you on the show or we've talked sort of challenging questions related to the platform, and you tend to be excited about the challenge, which is very different than a lot of founders who just get really upset if I ask them something about it. So one of the challenges I'm curious about is how do you get away from the concept of groupthink and a very concentrated group of people? Because obviously we're in the crypto space, but had to be certain invitations, get those people on there, and then there's certain like levels of sort of groupthink that can happen. How do you expand the people who are using it to make sure it's more encompassing of the full crypto point of view versus maybe a community of people that then invite their friends and suddenly you can pile on, and that's how groupthink works? Like, how do you expand the addressable market of Ethos to get more valuable data for all of these things?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say, again, right now we are mostly exclusively focused on, can we capture all of CT? We want to capture CT. CT is our focus. The interesting thing about CT is there are parts of CT that you've never seen or heard of before, because Twitter tends to treat our algos like echo chambers. And when we think about how people kind of tribalize themselves almost in the space. We end up having pockets of the space that we interact with. Maybe it's a Telegram group or maybe it's a Discord group, and you find yourself with the same people around you and you don't really like break out of that a whole lot. I know this because I did a bunch of AMAs with groups I've never heard of before, people that are like geographically in one place and focused on like ordinals. And you're like, what? And then, maybe even coming to you guys, you talk about Ape Chain. And I'm like, Ape Chain? I didn't know anyone was thinking about Ape Chain right now. And so groupthink is a powerful force, a headwind against us effectively, where that is how we all operate, is this concept of groupthink. And when it comes to how do we onboard people, how do we get to a point where like everyone is exposed and gets invited to Ethos and participates in Ethos, I've been really deliberate about trying to go to each of those communities and onboard them individually. And instead of just saying, oh, like, yeah, go with your friends and you spread these invites out, like, go find those communities. And it's been challenging, but it's been like powerful. Like, we've grown from different locations of people and what they focus on to different locations geographically and where they are located. And you can see that in how they write. Oh, they're writing in this language or that language. And you can kind of see, I could like show you on a timeline of a map of like where we have grown in those areas. But at the end of the day, does that solve the groupthink problem? Not really, because you've just onboarded a bunch of different like small tribes that have the same groupthink. And to be honest, like there are groups that have decided to go harder on ethos and choosing to be well represented by having a lot of people vouch for them, having a lot of people review for them, participating and reviewing them back, which I have encouraged among groups. This is the hardest part when it comes to stuff like slashing. When you come to an agreement that has to be made and you're up against groupthink, how do you effectively combat groupthink? How do you ensure that people are approaching it objectively? And it's very difficult. I would say our best interest in solving this problem is continuing to spread, to get as many groups and collective groupthink out there to represent the mean or the median of the space, as opposed to, oh, these people are active and the group is dominated by these thoughts and therefore you get groupthink. I don't know if that made sense or not, but like, that is kind of our strategy, is like, yeah, like try to get as many people as we can so that we get more of an average viewpoint than like a specific user or group's viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's the idea that, like, I mean, groupthink in a small concentrated group, sure, that's a problem. Groupthink in a large spread out group, it's like if you have all the NFL fans talking about something related to football, like, yeah, they're going to have their biases, and people in the, AFC East are not going to like Josh Allen, but people outside of it might be more objective about it. And so by getting all those things together, you have this amalgamation of opinions, which then ultimately drives the best possible product. One more thing before we get into sort of this sort of, all-encompassing idea of broker and maybe dive a little deeper on that specifically. How do you fight spam? Because I think this is the constant question, and this is probably the same way I think like OpenSea Rewards has to fight farming and these sort of like, just farmer bots, and people on any given protocol have to fight like the wallets that are setting up and doing things the way that's against their policy. Your biggest problem, I imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, has to be spam, random reviews, and things where you just see people pop on and just basically copy and paste an X bio into something. And look, it looks like it's long and it's good. Like, so how do you go about fighting that? Because I have to imagine that's the most creative problem you have to approach regularly, and they stay ahead of the curve on that sort of thing.
You know what's really interesting is like this is the problem that we first solved, was spam with vouching. The idea of vouching, the idea of putting your money where your mouth is, that is economic security. And when you think about the spam that we see a lot of it. Every platform sees it. Reddit, Facebook, Telegram, everything is filled with spam these days. And as it becomes easier to generate AI slop and look authentic, in any place that there is incentive to do anything, you are going to attract spam. And Ethos, I believe, can solve the spam problem once for everyone else. That is our goal. We have to be good at solving spam. Because when I go back to the OpenSea team, and this is the theoretical, just to be super clear, and they're like, hey, we're thinking about these rewards to these people, I want to be able to say, you don't have to think about the spam problem. Here's a list of reputable users. Here are a list of real people that maybe they have some sort of human verification. Maybe they have some sort of like, oh, they have staked ETH against their name. Like it is proven that these are legitimate people. And not just to be clear, not every single one of them is going to be legitimate. They're going to be people that spoof things somehow, but you make it incredibly harder to do so. And the easiest way to think about spam and how we control it on Ethos today is through the score. If you go look at the score today, like 9 out of 10 times you see someone writing AI slop, they're under 1400. They're under the like threshold of like, not a lot of social proof there. Not a lot of people going out of their way to say this is a real person or put their money against that person's name. And so the score is how we fight spam. And I have seen it work well. It's one of those things where like, yeah, there's still incentive, so people will still farm it and might still do stupid stuff like spam things at a higher score, and so it still slips through. But for the most part, when I get people that I see a screenshot on Twitter and someone's like, "Look at this fucking AI slop bullshit," right? You're like, "Yeah, but look at their score. They're under 1400." And we will get to a point where that becomes the standard, I think. And well, I mean, I strongly believe we will, and this will end up being why Ethos is important. Is I can go to every other team in the space and say these are the real people. These are the ones that like have some sort of social proof. 99% of wash trading, it's not attached to a social identity. It's not attached to a person. Therefore, you can assume it's wash trading. Versus these are from real people. And that's what our like at the core objective of Ethos is, to be honest.
To a degree, it's interesting because I wonder, I mean, one, I always appreciate the fact that like one thing again that's I think unique about you versus a lot of other people we generally talk to is you tend to have this like long-term point of view of like it's a product that has to sort of bake over time in order for it to have the best possible product. Like the first 10 people on it aren't going to make the product work. It's got to be a long, like the bigger it scales, the more correct the
That's
data
right.
and precise data gets. And so thinking long term, I think is right. And it's almost a world where, is this a world where it's like, look, like right now I see a Google review and people can juice Google reviews, all these things. Is that a real person or whatever? This is kind of the idea that, you talked about being a platform people can build on. It's like Google reviews, Yelp, like things like that. Glassdoor for like, obviously Glassdoor has to be anonymous for some reason. So maybe a bad example there, but like some of these sites, you're basically adding an extra reputation layer to say, should I really believe this person? Or is this person kind of full of shit? Or is this a bot? Or is this not even a real person? Is the idea long-term and the goal long-term in Ethos to be like, look, we do this here in crypto, but man, at the world at large, if you want to know what the best stadium to go to a game in the country is, or the best, restaurant locally is, you can look and you can kind of see like this is their Ethos score, and it's going to an algorithm with reputable human beings who actually ate there.
100%. Yeah, that is the long-term vision though, right? And so like when it comes to startups and building products and building with long-term vision, the first step is solve the problem well in a niche that you are in, that you are familiar with, in a market that you can capture. And then you grow beyond that. Then you find ways, because the most adjacent to CT and solving this reputation here, and even as it relates to broker, is people selling and buying stuff online. You go to, I've been in telegrams with people buying and selling watches 5 times an hour. They're just flipping watches, they're sending them to each other. How do you trust that the person's going to send you the thing? Sometimes they use middlemen, sometimes they use an authenticator, or Pokemon cards, right? Like I come from a really deep background of Pokemon cards. I've sold $30,000 cards to someone over the counter before and had them wire me money. And you're talking about high risk transaction and reputation being backed there, and then building a reputation up as an over-the-counter dealer or building the reputation up of a card store, whatever it might be. You can start to see how it just stacks on top of each other. And so, yeah, I mean, dude, we've got like, this is what happens when you build I don't want to say a real product, but you build a product with vision. It looks beyond today significantly. And I have built products my entire life. I've been building products in Web 2 for over a decade, and I know the difference between a good product and a product with vision. And a product with vision can take you so much further than, oh, I think I'm just building this thing right now because I want to optimize for this and X, Y, and Z. And it's a constant challenge in this space because you're constantly distracted. with this meta today and that meta the next day. But sticking to that long-term vision and really how you highlighted it is a big part of how you will see us build.
I want to highlight one example, speaking of which, to show a perfect example here of what you're talking about. So, and we'll get into the individual things, but looking at like, look, you're a broker and there's buying. Someone just goes, buy NFT. I want to buy an NFT for future. So you're like, all right, kind of what that is. And then a response that says, you are happy to buy any NFT for 0.2 ETH or any specific one. So like, seems like kind of spammy. And then when you click on it, the top review says, Amir is a bot or using a bot. So that's the idea, is like, that is what you're trying to show, is like, look, on the surface, someone might look at that like negatively and be like, oh, well, you know what? This is just proof that it's a bunch of spam on Ethos, yada, yada, yada. But I think that's like sort of like it playing out in practice of what you're trying to do, right? It's like, that's exactly the point, is I'm like, this seems sketchy. Oh, wait, people are always trying to view. So it would behoove me as a participant in Ethos to go there and say, suspicious bot activity or something, if I feel that way looking at it, if I go through and review it, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the layup, right? It's like, that's the screenshot you see. And then I'm like, but dude, his score is 1324. Like, yeah, it's almost always the case. If you see it, I definitely encourage you, when you next time you see someone that's like, oh, I can't believe the Ethos of this slop, you're like, dude, the guy has no social proof. Like, yeah, this is on other sites, they just hide it. On Twitter, you just hide it. You don't even see it. And we'll get to that point too. But yeah, it's almost always hand in hand. Like the spam is almost exclusively under 1,400 people.
Yeah, I have one negative review that's definitely a bot. It's hilarious. I can't remember what it was, but it's like some word that doesn't even make sense. And then it says in the review thing, just my opinion. And the person has his Ethos score of like 1,200 or 1,100 or something. It's like, well, that's that. Can't be perfect everywhere. Sort of like, yeah. So I think looking at this, so you have the options. So you have an everything tab: selling, buying, hiring, looking for work, and bounty. Which, it was funny because I know when I first heard about it, I heard about it related to work, and we were DMing, we were kind of laughing. I'm like, oh, the job board. You're like, a little more than a job board, and then I figure out, I'm like, it is a little more than the job board. So if people are looking to post on this, talk about the things that you've seen early on, maybe some things that have surprised you, and how people should go about using the broker product, which I find it's in its infancy, but kind of an interesting product.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of the things early on that I've recognized, and most people have always said like, oh, Ethos is building like LinkedIn or something. They're like, I guess like LinkedIn is just kind of a feature, right? Like the job board stuff, to your point, is pretty basic and simple. And our original thesis was like, start with something like Craigslist, like get to a point where like people can interact with each other, sell things, buy things, hire people, don't hire people, say that you're looking for work, but in a reputation backed way. And I have been surprised by people. I forget how much of the gig economy Web3 is. Like Web3 is truly a gig economy. And I don't know if it's because the cyclical nature of it, where like people aren't committed to like, I'm gonna hire this person for 3 years because I don't know if I'm gonna have money in 3 years because the cycle could be gone. But I've been really surprised by people happily putting their price out there for like, I will do this work for this amount of money. And you're like, damn, like it makes me think sometimes. I'm like, I forget we live on a global economy scale, and in Web3 we attract global talent. And like one of the interesting things I've seen is people put prices out there that you're like, oh, well, if you're in Indonesia, if you're in India, if you're in Nigeria, if you're in any of these countries where the average wage is much lower than you are into the US, but these people are qualified, they're reputable, and they have a number there, it makes you jump a little quicker at like, maybe I should hire someone to do this work for me. And maybe they're not the best, or maybe there are other opportunities out there. But I've been really pleasantly surprised with like people just saying, here's my work. I will do content creation for you. I will do clipping for you. I will do, yeah, some guy says that he'll be a reply guy. I mean, there are plenty of people out there that have various needs that you didn't even, or various ways to fill needs that you didn't even think of. And so I've been surprised by the diversity of content, people's likelihood of actually putting a price on things that they want to be hired for. And then just like how cool it is to see the reputation next to that. Like it really, I feel like kind of completes the chef kiss of what the intent is, which is you can see who knows this person, how reputable are they, and why should I potentially hire this person?
Yeah, and it's funny. I give like I want to ask related to that. You've been big about being an open platform. For example, I think Moonbirds is a classic example where it's like Moonbirds has a negative review, then maybe it's a neutral. I think you yourself left like a negative, neutral, and maybe now positive review even. So it's like you can go across the board. So like, and kind of move it up. And your idea is like, yeah, everything stays there forever because we should mark this moment in time. Then we should mark how it changed and all those things. And Moonbirds is a classic example where at today's state, I'd say it probably would be a 1800 score, but
people are bullish.
But instead it's 1275 with 53% positive reviews. On a similar note, looking at sort of the broker tab, are there any things you have restrictions for or policies? Obviously, like, is there like if someone asks for something illegal, if someone asks for something that is salacious, like are there things like can somebody go up there and be like, I'm looking for feet pictures, like, what I mean, like what is the thing that people can do, or are there restrictions?
So again, Ethos is very much ideologically aligned with the blockchain. And at the end of the day, Ethos itself, the broker interface that you see, it's more of a block explorer than anything else. It is a way to show content and things that are happening on chain in a better way. And there is the potential that anyone through any interface could go write a thing saying, I want to place a bounty and have this person assassinated. Like absolute worst case scenario, you've created an assassination market, right? Or I want to buy steroids, or I want to buy drugs, or whatever it might be. Now, Ethos has its own terms of service and has the right to remove things that are illegal, or things that you're not allowed to solicit or sell, or whatever it might be. And we can remove that from our website at any point in time without any notice. The interesting thing about that is it's still on chain. And if you yourself say that you want to go solicit something that's illegal or buy stolen goods, whatever it might be, you could, in theory, still view that on the blockchain and be connected with a person. Now, you would lack a lot of the context. Like, okay, you know who the profile is on Ethos. You wouldn't be able to see the score. But there is a world where someone could actually create an entire other website hosted in some non-foreign sanctioned country that facilitates those types of transactions. We would hide them on Ethos always, but we cannot control who puts what on the blockchain. So it's a very similar concept to like, well, does Ethereum facilitate money laundering? In theory, yeah. But can you hold Ethereum accountable for money laundering? No, because it's an open marketplace. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Like without like getting myself in handcuffs.
Yeah, I mean it's on chain, so it's going to be there, but you can make it so it's not on the front end for people to see, which makes sense based on that judgment, and there are lines to certainly draw. And like I think on the extremity of that, it's like, yeah, it's like, an assassination market would certainly be a line you're going to draw versus like some of the other ones where it might be like, that's a little bit, that's kind of a silly ask, but it's also something that, might be, hey, this person's kind of working and figuring it out. Cap, up before I dive in, I know I've been yapping quite a bit because I'm excited about this one. I'll let you get in here with thoughts and questions as well before I just talk Serpin Zero off on it.
Yeah, no, good convo. Enjoying the chat, and love that we talked about the whole building in public concept, and not just resting on what was done in the past, but continuing to ship and experiment with new things. When you do that, sometimes things break. We did have a question in the chat, not a major one, but a question from Diego asked, is I don't know if it used to show, but he's asking why the X account age doesn't show on our profiles in Ethos. Is that a glitch, or is it a move away from that?
Yeah, no, there's not a move away from that. It might be bugged right now. ETH account age is Twitter account age. That was the question. Sorry, Twitter account age. Yeah, that's definitely something that we look at, and it has a big impact, right? Twitter accounts that are less than 30 days old, they take a huge hit on their credibility, right? Oh, you just spun up a new account. Now that we have much more depth to the scores, even Ape Chain and the 4 different products that Yuga has Twitter handles for, they all show up as established or known now, which can even help people from getting scammed from a brand new fresh account get spun up and starts DMing people. So yeah, it's definitely meant to be a part of how we consider people's score. It might just be bugged that it doesn't show the exact date right now.
Perfect.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense how that works. I guess it's been obviously a very interesting conversation, and I think in general this concept that you're putting, like I said, I appreciate you're putting tangential products that make sense within there. So like you said, like sort of the slashing markets, whether you're saying the listings markets, the idea of sort of the broker markets. Is there any stories, I guess, before we let you get out of here, any stories or things that are interesting related to, let's say, like a slashing market where maybe somebody led the charge towards a slash and maybe the community said, actually, let's slow down, or maybe somebody thought that they had are there any stories like that pop out to you to kind of show this is the power of how the community can properly rally?
I would say that bounties are probably the most interesting component that will get us to that point, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is I've published two bounties, one that is go help me identify Sibyls. So anyone that has invited themselves and is a part of a Sybil ring that promotes themselves, I will pay you directly. And if you provide all the evidence and it's successful, then I'll pay you for the bounty. I've also done this for people that are openly abusing Ethos, which is I have written, maybe you're paying for someone to get reviewed. And I'm paying $5 if you review me if you're over 1400 score. That is obviously against the spirit of the product. That is openly inviting issues to Ethos and how Ethos scores work. And when you have a product like Broker now, and you have people that are oh, I trust this person, I should do a deal with them, the scores better be damn good. This puts more pressure on the scores, to be honest. And so I have a bounty open for that, and we've already gotten some reports of that, and one of them has led to a slashing. And so one of the slashes that is going on right now is I had a bounty open. Someone reported that someone was basically openly paying for people to review him. $4 to $5 is going great, apparently, for a positive review. And I slashed him. I wrote the slash. I said, hey, here's the evidence. Here are pictures from Telegram. He got caught, openly admitted to it. He felt like the slash was too much and kind of rage quit on us a little bit. But kind of expectedly so. If you are abusing a product and get called out, you're probably not going to react super positively about it. So it has been really interesting to see this concept of if there is in theory some incentivization to catch people who are abusing the system, which is good, and they get caught, what does that mean for a slash? Hopefully we have very, very good evidence, and it's really on me to ensure that we have good evidence. But there's always debate and kind of wiggle room to be had in terms of well, I don't think that it should be that much. Ethos score of a slash, well, I don't think this was enough evidence. I think they should have gotten a warning or a penalty. And at the end of the day, the way slashing is meant to work, according to the white paper that we have written, you step out of line socially, you do something that people disagree with. That's what a slash is for. And so it's been TLDR, really interesting with the introduction of broker bounties to have people start to produce slashes based on incentives, but that allow Ethos to have in theory, much better and reliable score.
Go ahead, Cap.
I was just gonna say all this, bring it all together. I see Mesh in the chat ask, can you build protocols on top of Ethos? We've also seen a lot of, whether on top of Ethos or building with Ethos, some collaborations of other protocols incorporating Ethos into what they're building. I think of Zeet, for instance, who, the newest InfoFi protocol, who talking signal over noise, and part of that is integrating the Ethos score directly into their
algorithms,
bio, their algorithms, etc. So I guess to that question of Meshmas, can you build protocols on top of Ethos, or I guess how would you answer that, and anything else you could share in terms of how you envision this going forward beyond Ethos, your platform, beyond Ethos work?
Huge part of strategy. I vibe code on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I teach people how to build stuff by building stuff on top of Ethos. We have our developers API. It's developers.ethos.network. We have leaned heavily into enabling ourselves to be a platform. And we want to encourage people to both integrate the scores into their products. And so we're working with a ton of different teams that are doing that because they have the spam problem. They have the problem of like having a lack of signal in versus a lot of noise. We were working with other protocols to write back to Ethos. Hey, you did something in your product. Maybe it automatically writes a review, or maybe you can write reviews from a different product. We've been thinking about and wanting to go further on the credit lending and like, hey, you defaulted on this loan. Now you get a negative review from like that protocol itself saying you defaulted on this loan. And then we wanted to enable people to build things on top of Ethos as well in terms of entire products or protocols. If you look at what we talked about thus far as being kind of Rails, like I talked about it being infrastructure, well, like a review is a review. On Ethos, it's composable and you could take it anywhere. Well, you could imagine, maybe what if you open the base app and you leave a review for a product? Well, you might not even know it, but that review could have been an Ethos review that you left. So integrating it more deeply into products as kind of the rails for review system, we've seen a lot of demand from different products, platforms, partners that are thinking about ways to help increase consumer confidence in their product and help ensure that their consumers like know what to buy and maybe what to avoid when it comes to what's like trending on their platform.
I love the one of my favorite things when I was poking around the other day after we chatted on the broker was the you have a big okay motherfuckers put your money where your mouth is one where it's like approve that Frank D Gods dump meme coins on his followers for a profit, and you're offering anybody $500 you can provide. So it's almost like you see the reviews that people say is a pump and dumper. You see people saying those things and you're like, look, I haven't seen this verified anywhere. I'll pay someone who can verify it so we know, because we want to make sure our platform has the right information. And so put your money where your mouth is. And I have not yet seen that proof running through that. I did see Frank comment, I believe, right after you posted and said, looking forward to this and happy to respond to any claims people bring up. So he's already luring himself up right there. But, just an interesting usage of it to be like, hey, like, so I think like for people out there, just to put it on there, and then we'll just kind of get anything out you want to before you get out of here. But like, whether you're selling something, buying something, hiring, the looking for work option we talked about. I love that people are putting their prices out there and getting themselves that opportunity. And then the bounty option, it's like, if you have something you're super interested in, I'm probably most likely to be like, I want something. I'm going to throw a bounty out there and cash a little ETH into some USDC and see if people want to do it and start bountying. So I think like the bounty one is so interesting to me because I think that that's like the most creative and gives you the opportunity to say like, all right, like, just the same way you did like sort of the bug fix, sort of like, bug bounties, like, somebody says so-and-so's a scammer or so-and-so's this, that person being called out can say, I will give $1,000 to anybody with on-chain proof that says this. And it's like, it's almost like if I say, like, if someone accuses me of something and I say no, it's like the lady doth protest too much. It sounds like but if I'm like, I will put just the same way vouching works. If I'm like, put my money where the mouth is, $1,000, anybody who can prove that this happened, it gives you a whole new level of like, prove it, put it out there. Show me where I did X, Y, and Z, and we will have that conversation. So I like that. I like that idea and kind of what you're thinking. So anyway, just wanted to compliment you on that.
So thanks. This is one of the things I'm most excited about too. And so two things. One, there have been some funny bounties out there. Like someone put a bounty that said, make CZ or Vitalik follow me, and I will give you $500. Not me specifically, the person posting it, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's super smart, right? If we really were just dying to get Zach XBT on the platform, I could put a $10,000 bounty out there that says, get Zach XBT to create an account. Well, you know what? Zach XBT could fucking do it himself and get a $10,000 bounty, right? So it's really like Vitalik, if he wanted $500, could do follow this guy and get the $500 bounty for himself. And I think the bounties are really important. You have to have reputation backing the bounty, right? There's going to be some desire to have anonymity on the other side of it. But the Frank bounty is by far the most interesting. And I have been tweeting about this a little bit. It's conceptually not super common yet. But the guy who created prediction markets, Robin Hanson, he's with MetaDAO right now. He's been talking about prediction markets for like 20 years. He had this concept a few years ago where it's kind of like if two people are running in a political race and one person puts $1 million bounty out there that says, prove that I did anything negative. Like, you can find dirt on me. You can, I don't know, find my taxes or whatever it is. Like, I will pay you money if you can find dirt on me. And he did a poll, and he found that most people would happily vote for the person who willingly put $1 million bond out there to have someone prove any dirt on them than the person or the candidate that didn't. And it's this concept of like a political bond where, like, when you are trying to build trust, if you are willing to put your own money out there and say, you're not going to prove that I did anything wrong because I didn't, that goes so much further than someone who is unwilling to do that. And interestingly, Frank had come to me originally and was like, hey, I think Ethos is really interesting, but like, yo, I'm questionable on here. And like, people are making arguments against me without any form of evidence or proof. And he's like, what if I put $1 million out there? And I said, you have 60 days to prove that under these conditions, like dumping on your followers or buying meme coins or soliciting whatever, prove that I did that. I will pay you that. But after those 60 days, if no one proves it, I should be able to get my reputation back. And you're like, oh, that gets really interesting, right? It's like a bond on yourself. It's like a vouch for yourself. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see how some of this evolves. But when you talk about more forward thinking, this idea of a bond that basically says, I will outsource this to a third party, I will put money against my name, and I will allow people to go attack me in any way possible and prove that I did something. And if nothing happens, that alone is a big enough statement. But if nothing happens, I can go build my reputation back. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, Cap, we want to get someone on the show, put out a bounty for it, right? It's like if there's big people, you want to do it. Like, that's a perfect example of like, hey, $250.
There's our answer. That's how we get him on the show. He may not respond to me. He's the only founder not to respond to my DMs, but we'll put a bounty on him. We'll get him on here.
Well, per Polygon, I am now the #2 Polygon influencer based on their Kaido leaderboard. I was #1 last month, so I'm slipping down, getting down horrendously. But no, really interesting. I think this is like, again, fascinating product. And I think the bounty aspect, when I dug into it, was like the one that out of that, look, I think it's all useful, but I find that absolutely fascinating and interesting to think about how people can potentially use it. I think you can get the most creative with it. And the Frank D guys one was a big opening on that. But that said, I know, like, look, I know it's 9:47. I got to take my daughter to get her braces off in a little bit here. So before we let you get out of here, anything else you want to hit on before we close it down about Ethos, about people who are interesting? Like we said, there's a couple of people in the chat who are regulars. If you are not on Ethos, hit me up. I think I have 4 invites, so I'm happy to get you on the platform and teach you how to use it, because I've been using it since pretty early on in the days of it, and find it to be, again, a useful platform. But yeah, anything else you want to get out before I let you get out of here?
I would just say, like, come along for the ride and enjoy the ride, because if you think about like the conversations that the 3 of us had months ago and where Ethos was then versus now, like it's come a long way. We've built and developed more parts of the product, more products themselves, and made the score better. Like, this is something we are in the long haul for. We have strong vision. We have very apt builders that know how to build things. There's so many more things that we want to build and continue to do on this. So if you're thinking about Ethos and you're looking at it at a glance and you're like, it seems stupid on fucking Yelp or LinkedIn, just like lock in for the ride, because there's going to be a lot more than just what you see today.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
Feel free to punt this. If not, willing to share, not ready to share. As you look at that long-term vision, which you clearly have one, what is the business model for Ethos? Do you envision monetizing via like API feeds for these others that want to build with or on Ethos? What does that look like for Ethos as a business?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So there's a lot of ways we make money on vouching. We make money on Ethos markets where people are speculatively buying and trading people's reputation. We make money now on listings. So we have a Dutch auction every 2 weeks for listings that targets products. We make money on broker listings if you want to pay premium. We have sprinkled in different revenue avenues that are not based on transactional volume like most Web3 products are. And I don't expect Ethos to be this thing that you look up and one day it's just making $100 million a month because we make a bunch of money on swaps and people are speculatively trying to chase whatever. But the way that I have always built products is solve a problem, prove product market fit with that problem. Then you figure out how to monetize. And I know that sounds crazy and weird, and I would like to help people understand that, showing that we are putting our best foot forward. We are not here to be extractive. We are not here to go take all of your money. We are here to solve problems. And as we continue to solve those problems and take every step and build a new product and build on top of that, there becomes better data that we have. There becomes projects that want to work with us, that want that data to know who to target. There becomes people care about their score more, and therefore they will vouch for each other or want to get vouched more. It's kind of just a culmination of things that happen over time, as opposed to, hey, we're going to go turn this into exchange and make a bunch of money tomorrow kind of thing. And hopefully that makes sense. I think a lot of people will put a lot of pressure on Ethos and be like, yo, how the fuck are you going to make money? Like, this is dumb. What are you talking about? But this is how you build business. This is how you build startups, right? Like OpenAI didn't make money for years. Polymarket still doesn't charge a fee on their transactions. Like, this is how you build a real startup. If we're being totally honest with each other, you build you don't let anyone take your margins away from you. You are the answer, and you build the moat around your product, as opposed to letting someone else compete and charge less than you charge.
Love it.
Great answer.
Well, look, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. And like I said, if people are interested in using the platform, I got 4 invites for those who are listening. Obviously, if you are loyal people, I see some of the folks in the chat that I know very well are credible people. I'll show you how to use it, and I'll help you get you spun up on it. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming on and giving us the walkthrough.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been great.
Always a pleasure.
Right on.
Yeah. When you DM Steve, make sure you include your ETH address. I need that to get your invites out to you.
Yes, include your ETH address when you DM me on that as we go. But Cap,
you got one coming to UB Epic. I just need your ETH address, and we'll get that over to you.
Yeah, whoever needs it, let us know. But look, Cap, I need to get out of here because I need to go run and get my daughter's braces off with her, and we need to leave in the next 5 minutes. So you tell me if you want to.
We're good. Yeah.
You tell me if you want to run the show or if you want me to jump out with you. You tell me.
Home stretch. You can wind us down.
Right on. All right, cool. Well, thanks everyone who came through this morning.
I will say this last thing real quick. Polymarket did just open up their US. It's a wait list, but it's inevitable at this point. So if you're in the US and don't want to travel to Bahamas every time you want to place a Polymarket line, there's an invite link also pinned up top, speaking about betas and early access.
Yeah, it's funny. I for sure. So it's definitely worth checking out. They just raised $2 billion. Worth talking about maybe tomorrow as we get into it. But yeah, we'll let everyone sail for the other day. Thanks to everyone who came through this morning. We will talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Probably another guest coming later this week. I haven't even told you about, Cap, but I'll let you know. From one of my current favorite brands in the Web3 space, out of the 3 we mentioned. So you can probably figure out it's which one it is out of the 3 you mentioned. One which is probably no longer on there, one which we are attending, and then there's the third one, which I got a message from recently that they might have some announcements and stuff. So look, appreciate everyone coming through this morning. We will talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.